Hey guys, Abby here, and in today's video I'm going to showcase a new variation of the standard Rack Attack flak build. This variation centers around the Flesh Melter artifact and corrosive damage. This build will provide you another way to get additional damage from your artifact versus the Icebreaker, and it's great if you don't have a lot of cryo weapons but you do have corrosive ones. However, if you're having trouble sustaining on flak in Mayhem 4, I would still stick with the Last Stand Auto Idol as your artifact instead of going this route. I'm going to explain each part of my build and how it works well with Rack Attack, but here's a quick screenshot of my weapons and gear along with the skill tree in case you want to see what it's all about before we dive in. A couple notes on the skill tree. So I opted out of head count in the hunter tree because it seems a bit buggy to me and it will sometimes reset my cooldown. So I stick with action skill cooldown rate on my artifact or class mod. I mentioned this in my cryo update. It just doesn't seem necessary to me anymore to have head count. On Gamma Burst it's really nice, but for Rack Attack the cooldown is so quick anyways, you don't really need it. And then also here's a quick tip regarding the skill Two Fang in the hunter tree. Two Fang gives flak the chance to fire an extra projectile per shot. This skill will only add one projectile to your shot, meaning that it won't add as much damage if you're using multi-pellet weapons like a shotgun or the Maggie, which is a ×6. So in those cases you're going to get 8 pellets instead of 7 on the Brainstormer if it's a ×7 Brainstormer, and then on the Maggie you're going to get 7 bullets instead of 6. So it doesn't double the number of bullets, it's only adding one additional projectile. So as far as percentages go, it's not going to give you a big boost of damage if you're using multi-pellet weapons. However, Two Fang is really great if you use single pellet weapons like the Redistributor, the Craps, Cheap Tips, etc. So keep that in mind when you're deciding whether or not to spec into Two Fang. If you use a lot of multi-pellet weapons like the ones that I mentioned, it may work better to spec into another skill like Second Intention or Hunter's Eye. If you want to learn more about the base Rack Attack build and how it works in general, I'll leave a link below. Like I said at the beginning, this is more of a variation on the original Rack Attack build. We're taking advantage of the synergy between the Flesh Melter artifact, corrosive weapons, and elemental annoyance. We'll be using the Rack Pack class mod on mobs and the Bounty Hunter class mod for bosses. If you don't have Rack Pack or you're using anointed weapons with 100% weapon damage on action skill end instead of 100% to rack affected targets, you can use Cosmic Stalker as well. So first, let's break down the Flesh Melter artifact. The item card reads, killing an enemy with corrosive increases your damage with corrosive for a short duration. So each time you kill an enemy with corrosive, you're going to get a 25% damage increase, and that stacks up to 5 times, and it lasts for 8.8 seconds. At max stacks, you're going to be adding 125% damage to your corrosive weapons. To be honest, by itself, this artifact isn't that great for most builds. In TVHM, the corrosive element does 50% less damage to shields and 35% less damage to flesh, which makes it really hard to finish off enemies with corrosive, which you need to start stacking the Flesh Melter damage boost. However, when you pair this with a quick action skill like Rack Attack and elemental anointments on your shield and grenade, you'll build stacks easier and you're going to notice the damage increase from the Flesh Melter artifact. So here you're going to see a comparison of both rack builds side by side in the 5th round of Slaughter Shaft on Mayhem 4 with neutral modifiers since we're not using an assault rifle. The corrosive Flesh Melter build is on the left, the original Rack Attack build is on the right. They're both using the same corrosive redistributor with 100% weapon damage on action skill end. The original build on the right has incendiary and radiation elemental annoyance, and then the Flesh Melter build on the left, I'm using corrosive and radiation. And this is so I can increase the chance that I get a corrosive kill. It's difficult to compare the two exactly given some of the enemies are different, but they're both sailing through slaughter shaft pretty easily. It's also important to note the buff bar at the bottom there. You can see on the left, I had very few stacks of frenzy in the beginning, stacking up a little bit towards the end, but on the right side, on the original rack side, I had 9 or 10 frenzy stacks the entire time. Unfortunately, we don't get any visual cues that our corrosive stacks have increased, meaning that you just have to kind of get a feel for it, but I definitely notice when my damage goes up past 2 or 3 stacks. Let's look at this kill in particular, so check this out. My Flesh Melter build is on the left, original rack attack on the right. Flesh Melter build is able to melt through half of the tank's armor before reloading, where the original build doesn't even get through 25% of the armor bar. Also, take note of the buffs that are active at the bottom of the screen. Both kills have Most Dangerous Game and 3 stacks of Interplanetary Stalker, but the Flesh Melter build on the left only has 1 stack of Frenzy, where the original build on the right has 9 stacks. Which means that in this moment, during this kill, the build on the right should be putting out 36% more damage, and it's taking longer to kill the enemy. Now, I know this is obviously one snapshot from a full run, and you can't definitively say that Flesh Melter build would do better than the original build overall, but I think of it as a new variation of the standard rack build. All you have to do is get this artifact, change some gear around. It's not an entirely new build. Of course, Flesh Melter is going to perform best in mobs, especially against armor bars, where you can chain your kills easily because you're going to want to constantly refresh that stack of 5. You proc racks to add additional elements to your shots in order to melt down shield and flesh bars. Of course, with the extra elemental anointments on your shield and grenade, you're not always going to finish the kill off with corrosive, but as long as you choose one of those, either your shield or your grenade, to have the additional corrosive damage, and then the other one to have like radiation or incendiary or something like that that would do well against shields or flesh, then you have a lot higher of a chance of finishing off that kill with corrosive. These elemental damage anoints on your shield and grenade are a requirement for this build. I mean, I think they're a requirement for the rack attack build in general. They're just so good because rack attack procs that action skill end over and over really easily. Also, you're going to want a good corrosive weapon, so I would recommend, of course, the Redistributor SMG is amazing right now. The Cheap Tips SMG is great. I'm really trying to find one in corrosive, but the Cheap Tips drops casino chips that boost your damage by 10%, so that could be even an additional damage boost. And then the Ion Laser from the new DLC, that's an SMG that's really great. The Hive rocket launcher is amazing to carry around with you, plus we have Leave No Trace, so we get rocket launcher ammo back. The Cutsman SMG is really great as well, the Craps pistol from the new DLC. If you're looking for purple weapons, the Protuberance or the Host alien barrel shotguns are really great. Just be careful you don't corrode yourself. And the Lump alien barrel rocket launcher, of course, is a wonderful go-to for flak as well. And that is it, you guys, for the corrosive variation of Flak's rack attack build. I hope you guys enjoyed this guide. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up and comment with what you want to see next. If you enjoy Borderlands 3 content and want to see more, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. I also stream on twitch.tv/AbbyHour Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time if you ever want to stop by and say hi. And that's all for now. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Satisfied.